You know I stand on business. Why you even letting somebody play with me like that? Why you letting somebody play with me like that?
You already know that when you come to jail, everybody jealous of what you done had in your life. That's just part of the culture. Like, I wish I would have had.
I just want to say this. First and foremost, there's no shame, no embarrassment in getting packed out, getting beat up. As long as you fight, you're respected. Now,
they're calling it the most chaotic twist yet. And to be clear, we're talking about what people online are claiming, not confirming. Overnight, timelines lit up with whispers that a judge shocked everyone by greenlighting King Harris's release after what commenters describe as a desperate plea to escape a wrong gang jail incident. Again, these are circulating reports and chatter, not verified facts. But the way the story is spreading, fans are stunned, emotions ran high, and even longtime followers say the energy around this case flipped in a single heartbeat. According to The Buzz, a tense back and forth inside the courthouse set the tone. Hushed conversations, quick calls, nervous glances, and a sudden pivot that people insist no one saw coming. Some voices say it was about safety. Others claim it was pressure. A few insist it was pure courtroom strategy.
I don't have no gang. I ain't in no gang. I got family. I got motherfuckers who willing to risk their lives and freedom to die by me and mine. You hear me? Why don't f***ing play with me, man? Don't play with my motherfucking child, ever.
Why? No, King changed for other reasons and he ain't got good sense. You see what I'm saying?
Did that nigga not give us a question?
Everybody know King ain't got, you know what I'm saying? He ain't got all his marbles.
I'm the only one on here who got bad-ass kids.
We all go through
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you ain't got no bad-ass kids, you got one and you got lucky. You hear me? Anybody with 3 or more,
multiples,
you got one that you...
Meanwhile, reaction clips are piling up. Family supporters sounding protective, critics sounding ruthless, and the comment section split straight down the middle. If the chatter is even half true, then tonight's question writes itself. Was this a narrow escape from a spiraling situation, or just the start of an even bigger storm? We'll walk through every claim, every leaked line, and every conflicting version next. The story started quietly, the way most rumors do. Just a few posts, a few voices claiming they had heard something about a surprise decision in court. By the afternoon, though, the tone had changed. Entire threads were flooding social media saying a judge had suddenly approved King Harris's release after an emotional plea that reportedly left the courtroom silent. Again, none of this has been confirmed, but the way people are reacting, you'd think it was the season finale of a reality show. Fans were posting reaction clips. Gossip channels were running countdowns, and even a few Atlanta insiders hinted that something major had gone down behind those courthouse doors. One post described King standing in front of the bench, shaking, trying to explain what had really happened during that so-called wrong gang.
I'm so puzzled why King feels the desire, need, want to be considered a street dude that badly. Why is he so obsessed with the struggle, with the life of being a street dude? Street dudes ain't really winning.
You wanted to go over there. You cried and cried and cried when you couldn't go over there.
We done got big house, big yard.
Gang incident inside the jail. Others said his father, Ty, was there, staring straight ahead, not speaking, while his lawyers kept whispering among themselves. The story online paints a picture of desperation, the kind that makes even the proudest person finally admit they're not built for this. According to several accounts, the hearing wasn't even supposed to be dramatic. It was scheduled as a routine check-in, a status update that rarely lasts more than a few minutes. But when King entered the room, witnesses say the air shifted. People noticed how different he looked. No swagger, no attitude, no diamond chains, just a plain shirt and a tired expression. He kept his head down, eyes flicking between his lawyer and the judge. Some say he looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. Others claim he mouthed the words, "Thank you," to someone in the back row before sitting down. Whatever happened next, it changed everything. A few reports say the judge questioned the conditions of King's confinement, mentioning concerns raised by his legal team about safety and misplacement within facility divisions. That's where the phrase "wrong gang incident" first came up. Apparently, there had been confusion about which inmate group King was placed with, leading to tension inside the unit. Unofficial accounts say there was an altercation, maybe even a setup. Nobody agrees on the details, but the consensus online is that King's team pushed hard to prove he was being targeted, not treated fairly. One clip even claims a family friend said off-camera, "He begged for his life in there." Those are heavy words, and again, none of it is confirmed. Still, the idea of Ty's son begging for freedom, for a second chance, was enough to explode across every platform imaginable. Meanwhile, outside the courthouse, fans gathered with phones in hand, recording every vehicle that came and went. One bystander described the scene as surreal, saying, "You could feel something was about to happen." In the midst of the noise, T.I. reportedly kept his distance. A few observers said he was pacing near the hallway.
What you want to do? What you want to do? You from here?
Yeah, I'm from here. Yeah, I'm from here.
All right, so. Oh, hell, y'all, let's go. What's up with you, bro? What's up with you, bro? Let's go. Putting your hand around me, talking out your ass like you want to do something. What's up, bro?
Oh, Lord.
What's up, bro?
Nothing.
What? What? Relax, or what?
Nothing.
Or what? Or what?
Nothing.
Or what? Because you just drive me like a boat.
This could be a game. You ain't the one.
Keep out your business, my nigga. Keep out your business, my nigga.
Phone pressed to his ear, while his wife Tiny tried to keep relatives calm. It wasn't the loud, confident Thai people know from the stage. It was a father, visibly strained, listening to voices behind closed doors decide his son's immediate future. Inside, the lawyers went back and forth, arguing about paperwork, responsibility, and influence. The prosecution insisted that celebrity shouldn't equal leniency. The defense countered that this wasn't about fame, it was about survival. Some say that's when King finally spoke up. Witnesses describe a trembling voice, barely above a whisper, saying he wasn't trying to play tough anymore. One blogger posted that he said something like, "I just want to live. I ain't trying to die behind nothing that ain't mine." That line alone became a trending quote within hours. People clipped it, shared it, remixed it with slow music, turning it into a kind of accidental confession of vulnerability. Fans were split. Some praised the honesty, saying this was the first time King had dropped the act. Others mocked it, calling it a performance meant to win sympathy. Either way, the damage or redemption was done. The rumor mill says the judge listened quietly, not interrupting once. At one point, reports claim she asked the lawyers to approach the bench for a private exchange that lasted almost 10 minutes. The courtroom fell silent except for the faint buzz of whispers near the back. When the lawyers finally stepped back, something about their faces told the audience everything had changed. One leaned over and tapped King on the shoulder. People say his expression didn't move, but his hands began to shake slightly. In that frozen silence, 1,000 cameras waited for something, anything, to happen. And then came the words that reportedly turned the internet upside down. Interview to the judge, in a tone both stern and unexpectedly compassionate.
Behind steel bars.
Yes, sir.
There's one in the head.
Does your buddy have one as well? Alright, just hang tight right here for me. Let me clear this. I don't want any accidental fires.
Said something about reconsidering custody conditions for the sake of safety and rehabilitation. No one outside knows the exact phrasing, but the impact was instant. Some attendees claim the judge ordered a release under strict supervision. Others say it was a transfer disguised as release. Whichever version is true, the result was the same. King Harris was no longer inside that cell. As he walked out, escorted by security, the crowd outside erupted. Some cheered, some booed, others just recorded, trying to capture the moment before it slipped into the blur of social media history. What happened next added another layer to the chaos. Instead of heading straight home, reports suggest King was taken to a private location, away from cameras and press. Insiders say Ty insisted on it. worried that the wrong photo could reignite the entire storm. Yet the storm was already here. Within an hour, clips of the courthouse scene flooded every timeline, each edited differently, each claiming a new version of the same story. One claimed the judge had been pressured by unseen forces. Another said King's emotional breakdown swayed her decision. A third suggested the gang incident had reached dangerous levels, forcing authorities to act quickly. Everyone had a theory and nobody had proof. But in the court of public opinion, proof rarely matters. Emotion does. And emotions were running high. Family supporters called it justice. Critics called it privilege. And in between, ordinary viewers argued about whether this was a lesson learned or just another headline waiting to repeat itself. One comment summed it up perfectly. The judge didn't just free a kid, she freed a story that's about to haunt everyone involved. As night fell, the courthouse emptied, but the noise outside kept growing louder. The Harris family car pulled away under a sea of flashing lights, disappearing into the Atlanta night, while the internet stayed wide awake, replaying the moment again and again, trying to decide whether to believe what they'd just witnessed or treat it as another viral illusion. By the next morning, the story had already twisted into 10 different versions. Some people swore they saw King leaving the courthouse in tears. Others claimed he smirked as if he'd won a battle. The only constant was confusion, and that confusion was spreading faster than any official statement could stop it. The hashtags were everywhere. King freed, Cha wrong gang incident, Cha judge shock. Even people who had never followed hip-hop gossip were suddenly invested, trying to decode what had really gone down. Every platform had its own angle, every commentator their own theory. A few said it was compassion, others said it was corruption. But what stood out most was the silence from the Harris family. Not one statement, not even a cryptic post. Nothing. And in the world of constant updates, silence speaks louder than words. Interview 13/11/14/02 inside sources, or at least people claiming to be, painted an image of a family walking on eggshells. One alleged witness described Ty sitting alone in his study, phone lighting up with messages he refused to answer. Another said Tiny had broken down, begging their son to stay home, stay quiet, stay safe. There was talk of calls to high-profile friends, some offering help, others advising distance. One source claimed a well-known rapper told T.I. straight up, "You can't protect him from what's already out there." Those words cut deep, because the storm wasn't just about a release, it was about reputation, a reputation that had been built for decades, now trembling under the weight of one reckless decision. Meanwhile, the internet had turned the courthouse footage into its own kind of spectacle. Slow-motion edits of King walking down the hallway. Dramatic...
Oh, motherfucking way. They got the wrong man, wrong guy. What the fuck is that? They got drones flying and shit.
And he told me that it was okay. So that's the only time. Any other time, I don't even call the police like for accidents. It ain't even no 911 call with my voice on it. If break in my house,
I can't judge how the parenting is gone, because everything that we've seen has been stuff that many of us would have said or similar we saw at your...
Dramatic music added for effect. Captions like, "The fall of a prince," or "The day business stood still." It didn't matter that no one could confirm what was real. What mattered was how it felt, and to the audience watching, it felt cinematic, tragic even. Fans started posting long threads about redemption, some forgiving him, others predicting he'd fall right back into the same trouble. Every rumor became a scene. Every scene became a narrative. And King Harris, whether he liked it or not, was the star of a story he no longer controlled. That's when the wrong gang detail turned from speculation into obsession. Social media detectives claimed to have pieced together screenshots, supposed leaked texts, and even an alleged recording from someone inside the jail. None of it could be verified, But the narrative was too wild to resist. The claim was that King had been placed in a block controlled by a rival group, a mistake that made him a target. One thread said he had been warned days before, another said he'd laughed it off, and a third insisted the entire situation was retaliation for his public image. Too much mouth, too little muscle. Whether any of that was true didn't matter. The story had momentum now, and it was unstoppable. Commentators started going live, feeding off the frenzy. One show host, trying not to pick sides, said, "We're not saying this happened, but if even half of it's true, it explains everything. The plea, the release, the silence." Another host shot back. "Or maybe he's just privileged enough to walk free when anyone else would have stayed behind bars." The clash of opinions became entertainment, and viewers ate it up. Thousands tuned in to watch people argue about something no one could confirm. King had become the latest case study in the messy collision between fame and accountability. But behind that public chaos, sources say a quieter storm brewed within the family. There were rumors of heated conversations between Ty and his son, arguments that stretched late into the night. One person close to the situation claimed Ty told King, "You asked for this life? Now look at what it's done to us." Allegedly, King responded by saying, "I didn't ask for your name." That line, if real, hit harder than any diss track ever could. A father and son standing on opposite sides of the same spotlight, each convinced the other was the reason for their pain. Meanwhile, Tiny, caught in the middle, reportedly tried to keep peace while handling the fallout. Friends said she stopped checking her phone altogether, tired of seeing clips of her son's courtroom video remixed into memes. The comments were cruel, people mocking King's tears, others twisting her own old interviews into sound bites. She said he didn't have good sense. One caption read, "Turns out she was right." It was harsh, invasive, and deeply personal. But that's the cost of public life. The internet doesn't forget, and it rarely forgives. As the second day unfolded, the judge's decision itself became the next point of scrutiny. People began to dig into her background, her previous rulings, even old interviews, searching for a motive behind what some called a mercy move. A few said she had connections to community programs supporting youth reform, suggesting compassion had guided her ruling. Others saw conspiracy. One viral post accused the court of bowing to celebrity pressure, claiming money and influence had greased the wheels. It was speculation upon speculation, but the effect was real. Faith in the system took another hit, and King's release became a symbol of everything wrong and right about power. By evening, King himself was reportedly lying low. Sightings of him driving through Atlanta flooded the web. Grainy photos, blurry videos, each claiming to show his first hours of freedom. One clip showed a young man in a hoodie stepping into a black SUV, face hidden, surrounded by bodyguards. The caption read, "The new king stays silent." Yet silence can't stop curiosity. The internet kept refreshing, waiting for a post, a statement, something. Hours passed. Nothing. And that silence again became its own story. The theories only deepened from there. One insider claimed King wasn't actually free, just moved to a private facility for protection. Another said he'd signed an agreement to enter a rehab or mentorship program to clean his image. And then came the wildest rumor of all, that his family was planning a televised interview to set the record straight. Whether any of that will ever happen is anyone's guess. But as of now, the line between truth and drama has completely vanished. For the audience watching, it no longer matters what's real. It only matters what's next. By the third day, Atlanta felt like it was holding its breath. Reporters camped outside Ty's gated neighborhood. Drones buzzed above driveways, and every tinted SUV that passed sparked a new rumor. Fans online claimed to have inside info from cousins of cousins who worked near the courthouse. Each post carried a different story, but they all shared the same headline energy. King Harris wasn't out of danger. Whether it was legal pressure, street politics, or emotional fallout, everyone agreed that the drama wasn't over. It had just changed shape. The first twist came early that morning when a new clip surfaced, supposedly recorded right after King's release. In it, a voice sounding like him is heard saying, "They don't want me home, they just want the show." The video quality was terrible, the lighting worse, but that one line ignited a whole new wave of chaos. Fans dissected every syllable, comparing it to old interviews, matching vocal tones. Some said it was deep fake, others swore it was real. And in the echo chamber of the internet, perception became reality. Within hours, the clip had millions of views, and "they just want the show" turned into a trending phrase, a rallying cry, a meme, and a warning all at once. While online detectives picked apart pixels, people close to the family claimed the real battle was happening behind closed doors. One insider described the house as tense, quiet, like everyone's waiting for something bad to happen. T, they said, had barely spoken since the release, spending his time pacing, making calls, and reading every comment thread that mentioned his son's name. Tiny, exhausted and emotional, had reportedly told friends she couldn't watch another video or read another post. One relative allegedly said, "It's like living inside a storm that won't end." The contrast between their mansion's calm exterior and the chaos unfolding online was surreal. Then came the next shocker. An anonymous post appeared claiming that the wrong gang incident was far worse than anyone had reported. It described, in vague but disturbing detail, how King had allegedly been set up during a routine movement inside the jail. The post said his name had been passed around, that he was tested by inmates who wanted to see if the rapper's son could back up his words. Again, none of this was confirmed, but the tone of the story hit hard. It suggested that his plea to the judge wasn't just fear, it was survival instinct. That narrative took hold immediately. Suddenly, people weren't mocking him anymore. They were debating whether the system had failed him. Across social media, the mood shifted. Influencers and commentators who had previously joked about King's downfall began changing their tone. One video that went viral featured a podcaster saying, "If those rumors are true, maybe he didn't break. Maybe he woke up." The comment section was a war zone. Half the viewers still called it privilege, the other half called it trauma. One user wrote, "This generation confuses humiliation with lesson. Maybe he's finally learning something real." Those words stuck, and soon everyone was asking the same question. Was this the moment King Harris turned a corner, or was he just playing another role? As the debate raged, a quiet but intense subplot emerged. People began noticing the absence of certain celebrities who once stood close to Ty and his family. Rappers who had previously shouted out King online had gone silent. One fan compiled screenshots showing who had unfollowed him in the last 48 hours, captioning it, "The Loyalty List." Others defended them, saying it was probably just damage control, but the message was clear. Some bridges were burning fast. In an industry built on image, no one wanted to be dragged into a story that smelled like scandal. Meanwhile, journalists started digging deeper into the judge's supposed reasoning. One local outlet published a report claiming that the decision wasn't as simple as a release. It was a carefully negotiated compromise. The piece said King's legal team had proposed a supervised rehabilitation plan in exchange for reduced confinement, citing mental strain due to misclassification. The article quoted an unnamed court staffer who allegedly described the session as emotional and persuasive. That phrase became the next talking point. Emotional and persuasive. Two words that fit perfectly into the narrative of a young man trying to outrun the image he'd built for himself. But the online chaos wasn't slowing down. Another supposed insider claimed that King's first night out was far from peaceful. They said he'd broken down at home shouting, "Y'all wanted me to be this. Y'all made me this," before locking himself in his room. Neighbors claimed to hear shouting. Others said they saw police cars pass by the property later that night, though no report confirmed it. Still, the scene added another layer of tragic realism to the unfolding saga. A family imploding under its own spotlight. And as the noise grew, old footage began resurfacing like ghosts. That infamous clip of Ty arguing with King in a car went viral again, this time with new captions. He tried to warn him. Fans slowed the audio, adding emotional piano music, framing it as prophecy. Another edit stitched together clips of Ty giving speeches about staying out of the streets, cut against footage of his son being led into court. It was heartbreaking and brutal. What once looked like tough parenting now played like foreshadowing. Still, through all of this, King remained silent. No posts, no interviews, no statements. That silence created a vacuum that everyone else tried to fill. Bloggers speculated about his mental state, claiming insiders were worried. Podcasts debated whether he'd return to music or retreat completely. One rumored that Ty wanted to send him abroad to reset, away from Atlanta, away from temptation. Another said the family was planning a documentary to reclaim control of the narrative. Whatever the plan was, it was clear that King Harris had become more symbol than person. A cautionary tale, a debate topic, a trending headline that wouldn't fade. And then, as the third day came to a close, something unexpected happened. A short message appeared on one of King's old fan pages. Just 3 words. "I'm still here." No context, no video, no proof it came from him, but that was enough. Within minutes, screenshots spread everywhere. People were split again. Some said it was a sign of strength. Others said it was a cry for help. One comment captured the mood perfectly. "The kid's free, but he ain't free." Because in this new version of his story, freedom wasn't about walking out of a cell. It was about escaping the weight of everything that followed him outside. By the 4th day, the air around the Harris family home felt heavier than ever. Paparazzi cars still lined the street. News vans parked like vultures waiting for a glimpse of someone stepping outside. The silence that followed King's supposed release was beginning to crack, replaced by whispered reports that something big was about to happen again. Online speculation had turned into full-blown conspiracy. One thread claimed that King's release wasn't real at all, that he'd been moved under protective custody. Another claimed the judge's decision had been reversed in secret. There was no confirmation, no denial, just noise. And in that noise, everyone started to sound sure of something that no one could prove. Fans kept replaying that 3-word post, "I'm still here." It became the new heartbeat of the entire story. People read into it whatever they wanted. Some said it meant survival, a message to his haters. Others thought it was bitterness, a warning to those who laughed at him. Reaction videos flooded every platform. Influencers cried on camera, podcasters debated his mental state, and think pieces popped up about the culture of humiliation. Even those who didn't care about the Harris family before were now captivated. It wasn't just gossip anymore. It had become a cultural event, a live unraveling of image and identity. Inside sources claimed King hadn't spoken publicly because his legal team was begging him to stay quiet. They supposedly wanted to control the story, to craft an official statement that could ease the backlash. But rumors say King was restless. One insider said he'd started pacing the house at night, replaying videos of himself, muttering, "They think they know me." Another claimed he'd been writing music, dark lyrics, angry and raw, maybe even an apology in disguise. Whether those stories are true or not, they fit the image that people had already built of him. A young man caught between pride and regret, too stubborn to break, but too haunted to move forward. And then came the emotional twist that nobody saw coming. Late that evening, a short clip began to circulate online, allegedly filmed from a neighbor's window. It showed Ty and King standing near their driveway, voices raised, faces tense. The audio was shaky, but one phrase cut through the static clearly enough to send the internet into meltdown. T.I.'s voice said, "You begged that judge for freedom. Now use it right." The clip ended before anyone could see what happened next. Fans couldn't believe it. The same father-son dynamic that had played out on Instagram Live months ago was now happening again, only this time under a much darker shadow. Within hours, the clip went viral, and everyone was talking about it. Some viewers called it tough love, saying Ty was trying to shake sense into his son. Others saw heartbreak, a father who no longer knew how to reach the boy he'd raised. The comment sections were flooded with sympathy, anger, and endless analysis. People compared the moment to a movie scene, a turning point in a tragic drama. One fan wrote, "That's not anger, that's exhaustion." Another said, "It's like watching the weight of fame crush a family in real time." The next morning, new photos surfaced showing Ty driving alone, head down, looking drained. Tiny was spotted separately, avoiding cameras, her expression unreadable. The family looked fractured, each member retreating into their own silence. Even Ty's longtime associates stayed quiet. One close friend was quoted as saying, "They're protecting him the only way they can now, by disappearing." Still, disappearing doesn't erase the internet. The noise only grew louder. Blogs claimed King had stormed out after that confrontation. One even suggested he'd left Atlanta entirely. Another claimed he was in therapy. None of it verified. All of it believable enough for people to share. Then, mid-afternoon, a new wave of chaos hit when a voice message began circulating online. It was short, grainy, and unconfirmed, but people claimed it was King's voice. In it, he said something like, "Everybody wants me to be something I'm not. I'm done pretending." It spread like wildfire. The phrase, "done pretending," instantly started trending, turning into hashtags, song edits, and emotional reaction clips. For many, it sounded like a confession. For others, it sounded like a threat. Either way, it gave the story new life just as it was beginning to fade. The tone shifted again. Suddenly, people weren't just gossiping. They were reflecting. Discussions turned toward generational pressure, the burden of fame, and how public expectations can destroy young people before they ever figure out who they are. The same internet that once mocked King for chasing the streets now debated whether he was another victim of social media culture itself. One viral comment read, "We raised him to be a spectacle, then punished him for performing." It summed up the bitter irony perfectly. That night, Ty finally broke his silence, or at least that's what people believe. A single post appeared on his account, a black background with the words, "You can't save someone who doesn't want peace." No tags, no names, no caption. Everyone knew who it was about. Fans flooded the comments, half offering support, half criticizing him for being cold. Some said it was a message to his son. Others thought it was a message to the world. Either way, it confirmed what many had feared. The divide between father and son had widened beyond repair, at least for now. And while that post was still burning through timelines, someone leaked what they claimed was an unreleased track from King. In the rough audio, a voice that sounded like his rapped about begging freedom from a place that didn't know my name, and walking out but still locked in shame. The verse hit hard. People didn't care if it was real or fake. It felt real enough. Within hours, fans began calling it his redemption song. Reaction videos showed people crying, calling it the rawest thing they'd ever heard from him. Suddenly, the same crowd that mocked him a week ago started asking if maybe, just maybe, this was his turning point. As the day ended, Atlanta's skyline glowed under an orange dusk, and for the first time in days, the noise began to fade. Maybe the outrage had burned itself out, or maybe everyone was just waiting for the next update. But one thing was clear, the story had changed shape again. It wasn't about crime or scandal anymore. It had become something else. A mirror reflecting how quickly we lift people up, tear them down, and then wait for them to rebuild just so we can do it all over again. Whether King Harris will rebuild or retreat, no one knows. What's certain is that his name will linger in headlines for weeks, maybe months. And in the end, that might be the most haunting part of all. That even freedom in this story feels like another kind of cage. You said, Kitay ChatGPT said, and that's where the story leaves us tonight. Somewhere between truth and speculation. Between a courtroom's decision and a family's silence. Was King Harris really freed because of danger inside those walls? Or was this just the latest chapter in a saga that refuses to end? The only facts we have are the emotions on display. Fear, frustration, exhaustion, and maybe a small glimpse of redemption trying to break through the chaos. Fans are still divided. Some say the young man learned his lesson, that the wrong gang incident humbled him and forced him to face himself. Others believe it's only a matter of time before he's caught in another storm, another headline, another viral clip. But no matter what side you're on, one thing is clear. This story has exposed more than just a celebrity family's struggles. It's made everyone question what happens when image becomes identity, and when the spotlight never really turns off. In a world where every mistake becomes a meme, where every tear becomes content, how does someone rebuild their name? Maybe that's the real question King Harris is left to answer now that he's supposedly free. So what do you think? Was this release a genuine act of mercy or just damage control behind closed doors? Has the so-called Prince of Trap finally faced reality? Or is he still trapped in a story built by fame and pressure? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because this time, your opinion might be the only verdict that really matters. Don't forget to like the video if you followed this wild timeline all the way through. Subscribe for more deep dive breakdowns of the stories everyone's whispering about. And hit that bell so you don't miss the next twist in this unbelievable saga. Unbelievable saga.